Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find a link in the description of the video and in the bio sections of social media. Now, I do have the CPCE put to call ratio index up. Now, the one thing that I thought that was kind of interesting before I get into the watch list is that we are back to the levels we were at on Sunday. So you can see Sunday was right here, and this is right now. So, and obviously Sunday on SPY was right down here. And I remember calling that out on Twitter that the put to call ratio was very high, and we were going to have a pop on Monday and Tuesday, and ended up being on Monday. So now the thing that's odd is that we were down here when the put to call ratio was high and it popped. Now the put to call ratio is high as of Friday, the end of the day Friday, which after we had this insane reversal on Friday, I found it kind of interesting that the put to call ratio is very high after that massive $11 pop. So, I mean, it'd be different if we were down here and it didn't have this massive rally on Friday. But I'm thinking that a lot of people, after this 11-point rally, that a lot of people took puts for the weekend, thinking for bad news or thinking for a gap down. Who knows what they were thinking, but that is one of the scenarios that's come to mind, is that the people probably grab puts in the day on Friday and just load it up for another one of these, rallies and drop. Because I said that on the on the watch list, that even though if Monday pops, that we could pop and still drop. We've seen that numerous times, like right here, and pop up and just drop more. So whether this is the actual reversal and we go green and back to all-time highs, we'll have to see what happens. There was stimulus news, so the market will probably gap up on that. So we could see a push to 390 plus on SPY this week. So it depends on how much SPY gaps up. As you can see back here, I mean, we were down at last Sunday at 380, and we gapped up all the way 385.50. So there was a $5 plus gap up on Monday. So I'm not saying we're going to have a $5 gap up. We'll have to see what happens when futures opens later. But I would imagine that tomorrow or Tuesday we're going to have probably another squeeze to 390 plus. If it does get over 390, which has been where it's been rejecting even on this Monday rally we had this past Monday, that it does break over that, we're probably going to end up going to all-time highs. But like I said, we could have a 390 pop then come back down again. So there's also a lot of disconnect between SPY and the equity stocks. So there's just the stocks have some catching up to do, like Apple and Lululemon and Walmart, and a lot of retail got hammered, Costco. So, which I have a lot of those on my watch list for this week. So, with that said, yeah, I think that we're gonna have a gap up. We're probably gonna end up having a pop and drop probably Monday. So if we do gap up quite a bit, and we managed to gap up over 390 or close to it, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we end up selling off at open. Or just a little bit of a pop to squeeze out the puts, then to dump it on them. So be interesting to see how much we gap up. That will probably be the big factor in what's going to happen Monday, is the amount we gap up to. So with that said, now I only have a few on the bearish list because everything's been getting hammered on. But one of the ones I have is Cat. Now, Cat is the new Roku and the new Baidu, which I've been calling for like weeks, and finally Roku and Baidu just got hammered on. So I'm thinking Cat is going to do the same thing too. I mean, the RSI on the weekly is in 77 plus. You get and the IRS cool down, the RSI. I don't know why I said the IRS. The RSI has cooled down a little bit on this drop, so I mean it could test back to this 223, but I'm thinking with the weekly and the RCT trend line being way back down here, and it's pretty disconnected with the weekly chart, so I would expect that CAT's probably going to end up pulling back, if not this week, real soon. Also, you can see as it's making higher highs, the histogram is making lower lows, so there it is diverging, a bearish divergence on the weekly. So keep an eye on Caterpillar, Cat. So I would watch it underneath. It is at 220 now. I mean, you can grab it underneath 218 for push to 215. Then you get this area of 212. Now, if it does break this 212, the 210 area, it's got a gap down here to fill at 202. So, but we'll have to see if it can break this 210. I would imagine if it gets to 210, it might try to bounce before dumping and going back down to the 200 level. So I'd like to see it go back to 200, but who knows if it will happen this week or not. So LLY, I can't seem to talk today for some reason. Lily, now it's consolidating right here into the 205, 206 area. It's holding 200 pretty well. The hourly, looks like it's topping out a little bit in the 208 area. So if it does manage to get below the let's say 206, probably a push down to 202, and then 200. 200 is where it seems to be bouncing, but if you look at the daily, if it gets below that, it's got room down here at the 197. And then you have the gap support right here, 194. We could say 194.50. And if it does lose that, it's going to gap fill. Now, it's got the same kind of disconnect from the ICT trend line. It just it gets too far away from it, likes to pull back, and then the histogram is pointing down. RSI is diverging. Well, it's lowering as it's flat topping, so it is a slight divergence, but definitely diverging on the histogram. So I would look for a pullback on that. Now it could also break above 210 and break out and test this 218 level again, but I'm not looking for it on that side. I'm actually looking for it on the short side. So under the 206 area would be one to watch. Now the other one, the last one I have on the bearish side, because everything has been beaten down so much, it's ridiculous, is Disney. Disney just I don't know, it's got like a head and shoulders going on right here. Get a left shoulder right here, head, possibly a right shoulder right here if it does manage to do something over here in the next couple days. But I think that it's gonna if it breaks below this 183 area, it's probably going to go down and test the 180, even 170 area. Now it hasn't really filled the gap. Well, did it fill? No, it hasn't really filled the gap down to 160, but I don't imagine it's going to get that far down, probably 170 if anything. But it's also possible that that Disney could take off with Spy if Spy is strong. But I don't know. I'm looking at it from the point of view that the weekly is showing a bearish divergence. It's making higher highs. The histogram is going lower. RSI is making lower highs. So it's diverging on multiple indicators on the weekly. So that's usually when you end up seeing a drop sooner or later. So it could be like Roku and Baidu can just diverge for weeks and weeks before it actually does do something. Because I know I had like Roku and Baidu on my short side watch list for like a few weeks at least, and it finally dumped. So I'm thinking same thing with Disney. So underneath the 180, you could see even 189 or even 188.50 for a push down to the 185 area, 185.50. And you get the 184, and then if it loses that, you get 182.50. Then you get down here to the 180. It loses 180. It's got a pretty big drop. I mean, 174, 170. So definitely watch for that. Now I already went over Spy. What I thought about Spy. Now. Yeah, I already covered that. So the gap up will determine how Monday will play out. the size of the gap up and stuff like that. So you'll have to be in the room to find out what I plan on doing with SPY tomorrow, because it's hard to predict, because like I said last week, SPY gapped up $5. I was not expecting a $5 gap up on that. But Costco, all retail has just been getting hammered on. Look at all these red days in a row. Then we have this big hammer reversal candle on the daily. So I would watch Costco over 320 for push to 325. Then you have 330. Then you have another big area right here at like 332, 335. Basically almost every $5 Costco is gonna is a big runner when it gets momentum. So I mean, you could see one of these kind of reversals like right here, just a few days. It could just end up going from, like I did right here, 347 to 376, you know, basically making a $30 run right there. So you could definitely see that with Costco going from 320 to 350, no problem. 350 would be the big area for it to get over, because it's a big psychological number, and as you can see right here, it's been acting as support for a very long time. So I would watch Costco over 320. Walmart is one that's been getting hammered on too. I had a nice big bearish, bullish engulfing candle on Friday, so I would watch it over 130 for a push to 131, 130, 250. Then you get this 133 area. Then you get 134. Basically every whole dollar here, 135. Now the gap down right here at 140. So I don't think it's going to fill the gap. Even if Walmart has a very, very, very strong run, usually they don't break through the gap resistance the first shot, especially if it's this much of a drop. It will likely go up and test 140, then pull back a little bit and try to make another run for it, making it either probably a cup and handle kind of setup, because that's what happens on these kind of drops. It will come up and test it, then it'll drop and chop a little bit, and then it'll form the handle, then it will pop and fill the gap. So that's what I'll be watching on Walmart. Lululemon, LU, same thing. I mean, it's just been beaten down. Anything under $300 on Lululemon's just been quickly bought up. So if you didn't buy it under 300, it was really cheap down here. I think it's a good deal. I think that Lululemon's going to end up going back up to 360 plus, probably by the end of spring or summer. It gets a lot of business in the summertime and springtime. A lot of people go out and buy their Lululemon apparel. So I would imagine it's going to have a nice little run right here. So I would watch it over, let's see, 395 for push to 300. 300 is a big psychological number, but for Lululemon, I'm sure I'll blow right by it like it's nothing. So then you'll make a run to 306, then you get 310. 310 is a big area. Then you have all this consolidation in the 314, 315 area. Then you get 320. I would not be a bit surprised if we end up seeing Lululemon over 320 this week, but it will determine on what happens with the market. So if the market does manage to pop and drop again, Lululemon will probably end up dropping more. But I just think Lululemon is a good long-term swing. It's going to be 350 plus probably by the end of summer. So Tesla is another one. Now, the thing I find odd with Tesla is that it is on the RSI is oversold on the daily below the 30. And I was looking at that. When is the last time that this was below the 30 level on the RSI? And you have to go all the way back here to 318.20. So last March 18th, it made went down to 25. So ironically, it's in March too. Then it just recovered. So I thought that was very, very odd. And if you also look, I mean, if you look at like the MACD and the histogram, I mean, this is low and it's a higher low right here, but yet it's got a bullish divergence. I mean, if you connect the histogram to this right here, and the RSI. I mean, the RSI is higher and the histogram is lower, so it is having a bullish divergence on the histogram and the MACD. So I definitely like Tesla. So, but the problem is it'll probably make a big run tomorrow when premiums are at its high, and it would just probably be very expensive to trade. So it gets over, let's say 600. 600 is a pretty big level for Tesla. So it gets over 600, you get 614, you get the 625 area, then you get the 635, 650 right here. 650 be pretty big, a big psychological number. Then you get the 660, 673. I mean, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we end up seeing Tesla to 700 in the next week or two. So I would definitely keep an eye on that for a reversal on Tesla. Like I said before, I was very surprised that the RSI was below 30 on that. So I think it's due for a bounce. QCOM, I think the same thing. Now QCOM, I gotta go back to my other setup. It's too far out. Now on the daily, it filled the gap right here. It's holding this, 127 area pretty good, and it did close over close to 130. So I would watch it over 130 for push to 135. Then you got the little area right here, 137, 138, 140 would be a big area. If it does manage to break over 140, next big area would be this area right here, 143-ish to 145. 145 would probably be the bigger area over 143. So QCOM oversold RSI wise. It's diverging, bullish divergence. It's making lower lows, and histogram is going up. So you get a divergence going on there. And we'll have to see if that plays out. That will also be very heavily dependent on what SPY does. Same with Home Depot. Now Home Depot, I made these lines for a bull flag channel right here. It did go below it on the weekly and came back above it, as you can see on the daily too, and it closed in as a hammer. So I would watch Home Depot over 255 for make the run to 257, 260. Then you got 262.50, just say 262, 263. Then you get 265. Then you get gap support right here at 270, which is from earnings now. It will probably likely reject it the first time and probably pull back to the 262, 263 area and chop a little bit. Then probably make an inverted head and shoulders, because you get a left shoulder right here. Then you get the head, and if it does manage to go up there and come back, it's going to make the right shoulder, make an inverted head and shoulders on the day, hourly, and maybe even on the daily, depending on how many days it does chop or whatever, and then probably fill the gap. So sooner or later. Home Depot, same thing. Summer's coming, spring's coming. People are going to go out, start buying their outdoor projects and stuff like that, patio sets and recreational stuff like that. So lawn, Home Depot is seasonal, so we'll definitely start picking up. Facebook, another one. Facebook, it's just sitting in this area, just chopping, especially right here, 255 to 265. It's just staying in this $10 range. So if the market's strong, I would imagine Home Depot, still got Home Depot in my mind. If Facebook gets over this 267 area, it's probably likely to break out. I thought it was going to break out on Friday, but it didn't. It'll probably likely break out tomorrow. If the market's strong, it's over 267, make a run to 270, 275 will probably be a big area right here, 274, 275. Then you got the 278, 280 area, which will be pretty big. Now if it does manage to get over the 270, 275, 280, it's likely going to make a run to 285. I think that Facebook is due for a big run. It's setting up, chopping, it's consolidating right here on the daily, and it's staying within its range on the weekly, and it closed above the RCT trend line, which it just closed above it barely. That's usually a good indicator when it's chopping at it. And that's usually when you see the next strong move. Like right here, it chopped at it, then it just popped. I mean, I'm expecting this kind of a move right here to 280 or so. So And the last one is Apple. Now, Apple is just, you know, it's down here. The one thing I do like about Apple, if you look at the weekly, right here, it was ranging a little bit, then it broke out, then it came back, and it's retesting this breakout area, which usually is a good sign for it for a reversal. I like when it breaks out and comes back and retests that area, so I would watch Apple over 122 to 125. And you get this 127 area, then you get this 130. This 130, 131 is going to be a big area. Then you have 134, then 130, 136. So you can say 135, 50, 136, 137. So, but if it does manage to get any momentum, we could definitely see Apple get back up to 135 again if there's any real momentum behind it. So definitely be watching Apple too. So that's going to do it for the watch list. I don't have much on there. I only have a few that could possibly have a decent drop. And I just so much retail has just been beaten down. I think it has a lot of catching up to do. We could end up seeing a strong week in retail, like I said, with a lot of them being seasonal, like Lululemon and Home Depot and stuff like that. They could end up having a strong move. And Walmart and Costco, I mean, they're due for a big run. So I think that this could be the week if the market conditions are there. So that's going to do it for the watch list. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hope to see you in the room. Thanks.